Let's begin with tonight's big number, 16. That is the number of newly detected Delta variant cases in the Philippines. That pushes the country's total infections of the highly transmissible variant to 35. But what's alarming is that of the 16 new infections, 11 are local cases. A large cluster has been identified in northern Mindanao, where 6 cases have been reported.
But the health department is holding off on tagging the new set of cases as local transmission, as they have yet to establish evidence that the infections are linked. The DOH is still investigating the cases, which remain to be sporadic in some areas. Good evening, I'm Riza Diaz.
I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Let's start with the country reporting 16 new cases of the more contagious Delta variant that pushes the nationwide total to 35.
11 of those cases are rather locally acquired, though the DOH has yet to determine if there's already local transmission. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez will give us a front seat to the big story.
Of the 16 new Delta variant cases announced on Friday, 5 are returning overseas Filipinos or ROFs, and 11 are considered locally acquired cases. Of the ROFs, 1 arrived from the United Kingdom on April 26, 2 arrived from Qatar on June 15. All 3 were quarantined and have since recovered. And the DOH is still verifying the details of the 2 remaining ROFs. Meanwhile, of the local cases, 6 are from northern Mindanao, where a large cluster was identified. 2 from Western Visayas, 2 from Metro Manila, including 1 who died, and 1 from Central Luzon. The 1 who died passed away after being rushed to a hospital in Manila on June 28. Including 19 cases that were previously announced, there are now 35 confirmed cases of Delta variant in the country. The Department of Health is refusing to classify it as local transmission, saying it needs to investigate the linkages between the cases first. But experts have been warning that the Delta variant is a lot more transmissible than previous variants.
Madali siyang kakapit at mabilis siyang dumami. Yung UK variant, 2 or 3 lang pwedeng mahawaan. Ito pwedeng 5 hanggang 8.
The DOH has also asked local government units to step up their contact tracing efforts and do back tracing for the Delta carriers.
Kailangan po makita natin yung ma-expand natin up to the maybe 3rd generation kung kakayanin para magawa po natin at makita natin kung sino pa yung apektado.
First identified in India, the Delta variant is causing a deadly surge in Indonesia, which is now seen as the new virus epicenter in Asia. The IATF has already imposed a temporary travel ban on Indonesia, but the Delta cases were confirmed just a week after some lockdown rules were relaxed, including letting children go outside. Now experts are calling for a renewed ban on social gatherings.
We need to make sure that no mass gatherings are held, and even yung small social gatherings that are held within families or work groups.
The DOH also confirmed that one of the Delta carriers was already fully vaccinated against COVID-19. I'm Pamela Vasquez and we are One News.
How does government plan to prevent further spread of the highly contagious Delta variant? To talk more about this, joining us is Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere. Good evening, Yusek Vergere.
Magandang gabi po, sir. Good evening to all of you.
Ma'am, first of all, let's try to understand the numbers, because just yesterday we were speaking with you on the chiefs. Yesterday the numbers stood at 19. Now nadagdagan ng 16. People will look at that and they will assume that from 19 to 16 in a span of one day. But what is there to first understand and to explain with regards to these numbers? Are these delayed numbers, or does it necessarily suggest anything about the speed of the spread?
When we do whole genome sequencing, we have to understand that we are getting our samples from the different regions. And the regions will be the ones identifying among their samples of positive cases, which would be sent to the Philippine Genome Center. Aside from that, the Philippine Genome Center has to do quality check when the samples arrive and will only identify those to be sequenced where the CT values are low enough so that we can get the results that we are looking for. So these samples that were tested and these 16 individuals, it varied. There were those who had been here already last April 26, and there were those who were recent, from June 23 to 28 for the Northern Mindanao. So these 16 cases are all from different timelines. But one thing that would be certain would be we were able to detect this through our whole genome sequencing, and all of them have recovered and have undertaken the necessary quarantine or isolation periods for 14 days, and they are now being strictly monitored by our local governments.
Okay, and then in the meantime, another thing po to try to understand, you are saying that this was locally acquired, not necessarily examples of community transmission. What's the difference po?
Well, when we talk about local transmission, we're talking about a person who was infected by another person in their community, and that has to have evidence. When you talk about community transmission, you cannot trace anymore where that specific individual got the infection, meaning it has spread already in the community. So right now, we have identified individuals who are positive with this Delta variant, and they are all in different places of the country. There is just one cluster in Northern Mindanao, but they are still not in the same location. So we need to be able to identify and determine what was the origin of all of these cases. Second, we need to identify are there any links between and among all of these cases so that we can determine what level of transmission we have in the country. For now, we are saying we have local cases, but we are yet to determine if we already have local transmission.
Okay, maraming salamat po, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere. Let's take a look at how the Delta variant, or B16172, is affecting other countries in the region. Singapore has the most cases of the transmissible variant with more than 1,044 Delta variant cases so far. The Delta variant is found to be 60% more transmissible than the Alpha variant first detected in the UK and Thailand. Based on the rate of vaccination in these countries, the report says the variant can catch up, put pressure on their healthcare systems, and result in a higher number of deaths. This could pressure these governments to extend or reimpose restrictions.
Now, these are the other big stories tonight. With a travel moratorium in place, Filipinos stuck in Indonesia want to be repatriated. They fear sanctions as their work visas expire. In a blow to Senator Manny Paquiao's leadership in PDP-Laban, a huge majority of the ruling party's members rejected his committee's order seeking to oust 3 party officials. And the major local leagues are making a comeback, starting off with the PBA, which raised its curtain earlier today. The Aces and the Rain or Shine Elasto Painters drew first blood. These big stories after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. Some Filipinos in Indonesia are seeking repatriation as the COVID-19 situation there worsens. But with the current travel ban in place, fellow Filipinos are left to look out for one another in the meantime. Jen Kalimon with The Big Story.
With over 57,000 new cases in a single day, Indonesia is now considered the new coronavirus epicenter in Asia. More than 700 of these infections are Delta variant cases. But it's not just the more transmissible strain. Compliance to health protocols has been low.
Majority of the hospitals are overwhelmed, and sometimes wala na talagang mga rooms. Even they're really overwhelmed, including ambulances, wala. Kahit na yung may mga sakit na iba, mahirap makapasok sa hospital ngayon.
Filipinos there are also affected. Almost 8,000 Filipinos are working as teachers, engineers, and accountants in Indonesia. The Philippine Embassy in Indonesia reports at least 5 Filipinos in Indonesia have died due to COVID-19. In the midst of the crisis, Filipinos in Indonesia find comfort in each other's arms through bayanihan care packages.
We established what we call a Filipino Viber group. No? The Viber group has over 1,000 Filipino members now. And with this, mga kababayan natin, maraming tatanong whether about health protocols, mga inquiries about repatriation back to the Philippines.
The Indonesian government is also extending help by including Filipinos in their vaccination program. But OFWs there are more concerned with the current travel ban from the Philippines.
This is where kailangan ng tulong. Kailangan ng tulong in the sense that yung iba gusto na talagang umuwi. And we've seen this since May, no?
Some Filipinos worry about the possible sanctions they might face once their work permit expires. Their only request is to be repatriated.
Yung pinaka-importante is yung repatriation back to the Philippines, also to ease yung flights from Indonesia to Manila para naman po makauwi yung ating mga kababayan.
The Philippine Embassy in Indonesia assures Filipinos they will help in extending employment visas while waiting for the travel ban to be lifted. Reporting for News 5, Jen Calimon, We Are One News.
Time for an express look at some of today's big stories. Iloilo Province and its capital, Iloilo City, have been placed under the strictest enhanced community quarantine until the end of July. Iloilo and its capital were initially under modified ECQ until July 22. Cagayan de Oro and Ginoog City in Misamis Oriental will also be under MECQ until July 31st. For the whole month, Misamis Oriental is under GCQ with heightened restrictions from the loosest MGCQ. The president has approved the September 13 opening of the academic year. Education Secretary Leonor Briones said the school calendar will be released soon. Last month, the agency allowed private schools to hold distance learning ahead of the approved schedule. And the Philippines has received its first batch of donated vaccines by the United States. That's 1.6 million doses of Johnson & Johnson's COVID vaccine. Another 1.6 million doses of the single-shot vaccine will arrive on July 17. The 1.15 million AstraZeneca doses bought by the government and private sector also arrived today.
The Sandigan Bayan 4th Division has dismissed civil cases involving the ill-gotten wealth of the Marcoses and their alleged cronies. The ruling said that the Presidential Commission on Good Government failed to provide sufficient evidence that the Marcoses benefited from contracts awarded to Ricardo Silverio Sr. and Pablo Carlos Jr. through kickbacks. The complaint said the two gave the Marcos family commissions for contracts with Kawasaki scrap loaders and Toyota rear dump trucks.
Now for the big story in sports, good news for volleyball fans as the Premier Volleyball League is set to make a comeback tomorrow. Although no fans will be allowed, many will be tuning in to see their favorite volleyball teams hit the court once again. More on this on Gretchen Ho's report.
The long-awaited return of Philippine volleyball is finally here. After more than a year, the Premier Volleyball League Open Conference begins tomorrow. Ten teams will participate at the PVL bubble in Bacara, Ilocos Norte. The league will be following strict protocols, from mandatory testing to no handshakes and court changes. Team practices are also limited to an hour. Despite the limitations, turning professional has been a big step for Philippine volleyball.
Got there. Phillips.
The sad part is, fans won't get to witness it live.
Actually, pag naisip ko na excited din talaga ako, pero may papaisip ka, walang crowd, walang audience. Parang ayun din kasi yung mamimiss mo.
Many volleyball fans are anticipating the first-time matchups between PVL teams and former Philippine Superliga teams.
It's really nice to be able to play against, the best of the best, the players from teams that we've never gone up against. It's kind of impossible to scout. If anything, kami yung pinakamadaling bantayan sa
PVL opening day kicks off with the triple header. The Cherry Tigo crossovers and the returning PLDT home fiber power hitters raise the curtain at 1 p.m. This will be followed by the Perla Spikers and debuting Signal HD Spikers at 4 p.m. And capping off the day will be the anticipated match between the Creamline Cool Smashers against newcomer Santa Lucia Lady Realtors at 7 p.m.
For Creamline, I think you can expect na there will be new combinations of players, especially from Coach Tai, kasi he wants all of us to be able to play and, to give us all exposures.
I think talagang paghahandaan lang din talaga namin. Pagpapakondisyon talaga kami ng maayos for this game.
This time, it's point.
Watch the best of Philippine volleyball together, stronger, greater in the 2021 PVL Open Conference on One Sports and One Sports with streaming on Signal Play. Gretchen Ho, We Are One News.
Time for another quick break. When we return, is Senator Manny Paquiao's position in the PDP-Laban in limbo? Majority members rejected his committee's resolution seeking the expulsion of 3 party officials. And after the long wait, hard court action is finally back as the PBA opened its conference earlier today. A look at the action when we return.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampayo. Still watching the big story. PDP-Laban's majority turned the tables on their acting president, Senator Manny Paquiao. They officially rejected his expulsion order against 3 high-ranking members. Jenny Dongon with the story.
PDP-Laban's majority has spoken. Vice Chairman and Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi, Deputy Secretary General Melvin Matibag, and Membership Committee Head Asha Naik will stay on as party members. In a National Council meeting in Clark, Pampanga, 139 of the 159 members rejected the resolution filed by the party's National Executive Committee recommending the 3's expulsion for violating party laws. Senator Manny Paquiao heads that party panel.
I move to declare that illegal resolution that they are considered to be void, not in accordance with the party constitution.
Even members of the House manifested their support for Cusi as factions deepen within the ruling party. But for Secretary Cusi, this is not a time for disparities.
I call for party unity and respect for our party constitution. Let us not allow personal ambition to dictate our party members.
A new set of PDP-Laban officers are set to be elected in tomorrow's National Assembly. Matibag once again insisted that the two event they organized is legal and authorized based on the party's constitution, contrary to the claims of Senators Paquiao and Coco Pimentel.
They can always question, but at the end of the day, it is the constitution of the PDP-Laban that will govern.
Matibag also denied claims that they are going to expel other members during the assembly. He says even Pimentel and Paquiao were invited to join.
Sinasabi nila, wag kayong attend, wag kayong pumunta kasi illegal, but they cannot point on a provision of the constitution ng PDP-Laban na violate po nito. Wala po.
PDP-Laban members have the option to attend the events virtually and physically. President Duterte, who sits as PDP-Laban chairman, is also expected to attend Saturday's assembly. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, BR1 News.
Let's take a look at the biggest stories on print and online. The Philippine Star reports that the death toll from the C-130 plane crash in Sulu last week has climbed to 53. This is after the death of Private Jesfel Mekyabas, who had been critically wounded after the incident. The Armed Forces of the Philippines said it has contacted his family and is preparing to transport his remains to his hometown in Misamis Oriental. From a business world, the central bank has approved another 540 billion peso loan for the national government to aid the country's pandemic response. This comes after the government repaid its most recent loan of the same amount last month. This is the fourth time the national government received support from the central bank since last year. Senator Kiko Pangilinan files cybercrime complaints against Google Philippines and two YouTube channels over fake and defamatory videos against him and his family. News 5 reports that the senator wants the NBI to track down the people behind the YouTube channels Starlet and latest Chica. Videos in both channels claim the senator physically hurt his wife, actress Sharon Cuneta. It also claimed Cuneta is committing adultery. Pangilinan also sued Google, which owns and operates YouTube, for its inaction.
And here are other big stories from around the world. The death toll from Germany's worst floods in more than 200 years rose to at least 80. According to local news, around 50 have died in Rhineland-Palatinate, while 30 casualties were reported in the North Rhine-Westphalia region. Many homes in the two states have collapsed due to the floods, while streets are still submerged. Pulitzer Prize-winning Reuters photographer Danish Siddiqui was killed while covering a clash between Afghan security forces and Taliban fighters. An Afghan commander said Siddiqui was killed along with one of their officers in a Taliban crossfire near a border crossing with Pakistan. Reuters remembers Danish as an outstanding journalist, a devoted husband and father. He was part of the Reuters photography team to win the 2018 Pulitzer Prize for feature photography for documenting the Rohingya refugee crisis in Myanmar.
Another big story in sports, it was a successful opening day for the Alaska Aces, Rain or Shine Alaska Painters, and the Meralco Bolts in the 2021 PBA Philippine Cup. In the first game, Alaska banked on a solid second half en route to win 103-77 over Blackwater Bossing. The Aces, led by Mike De Gregorio, outshot the Bossing 32-18 for a 21-point lead in the third quarter and did not look back. In the second game, Rain or Shine escaped by the skin of their teeth after Anthony Semerad missed a game winner for NLEX at the end of the fourth. Rain or Shine came out victorious 83-82.
By Rain or Shine. And then NLEX, keeper of Avena, pushing this basketball. They had a timeout, kicking it out. Semerad deciding to take that shot.
Lastly, it was Meralco who came out on top against Northport Batang pair, 85-63. Meralco dominated for most of the game, led by Mac Bello, who scored 27 points and grabbed 9 rebounds.
Free Britney and ensure that
She may not be free yet from her father's conservatorship, but at least Britney Spears is now free to hire her own lawyer. A judge granted the pop star the right to choose her own lawyer. And this time, she picked Matthew Rosengart to help in her 13-year conservatorship battle. Rosengart attended the hearing physically, where the tearful 39-year-old Britney broke down over the phone. She told the Los Angeles judge that they're allowing her dad to ruin her life. She wants to press charges against him for conservatorship abuse. The arrangement allowed her dad, Jamie Spears, to have control over her affairs, from soda consumption to her $60 million estate. It was in June when Britney first publicly declared that she wants her life back. Her next hearing is on September 29. Nick Garcia, We Are One News.
Sometimes, as you know, words are not enough to express our feelings. That's why Facebook has introduced a new feature, sound emojis. That's a blend of sound and emoji. Sound emojis let users send emojis that could talk and offer short sound clips, from a round of applause, crickets, drum roll, and even laughter, as well as excerpts from songs and movies. Facebook says it will update its sound emoji library regularly. The feature is also in time for World Emoji Day tomorrow, July 17.
it's Friday, Friday, gotta get down on Friday.
I'm not sure.
I know. Another feature that I will not use.
I was about to say, maybe I'm just old school, but I might not be subscribing.
I'm still happy with words.
But still is Happy Emojis Day. All right, and that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again on Monday at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And for Gretchen Ho, I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News. Good evening.